Hi, I'm Wes, and thanks for joining us with another Noria webinar. Now, today is a pretty exciting topic because we're going to be talking about the value of combining vibration analysis with oil analysis. You know, there's always kind of been a feud, which one's better, but I think that we can understand they're actually better together. Now, I do want to thank our sponsors here, AssetWatch, for bringing us this good content. And as always with all of our webinars, keep in mind this is a moderated webinar. So as we're going through here, you can use the Q&A feature of the chat window and ask any questions, and there are going to be people that are going to be responding to these questions as they come in. Now, for this, we're actually going to go out to Ohio, to a Worthington Steel factory, and start to see how they implemented this process in their maintenance program. I think it'll become apparent, you know, they started with vibration analysis and they got really good with vibration analysis, and then they're saying, what additional things can we do? So by linking in oil analysis, now we're able to better predict what's going on inside of our equipment, make better corrective action whenever there may be a problem, and I think you'll see how this has really evolved their maintenance program. So let's go on out to Ohio.
I'm Jeremy Lieb. I'm a transformation manager and I lead the reliability efforts here at Worthington Steel. At Worthington, we've had a little bit of, depending on the facility and depending on the process, we've had a different approach to maintenance in a lot of different ways. Delta here being a continuous run facility with a lot of emphasis on that. A lot of the solutions around AssetWatch have made a lot of sense. In some of our other processes and some of our other groups, we've had some reactionary type maintenance cultures that have had to, firefight at times, but I think overall, we've had a very proactive approach to maintenance and how we've approached things over the years since I've been here. AssetWatch, we've had a great partnership with those guys for a long time, and when we started to develop really our reliability culture and what our strategy was going to be, it became apparent that we might be having technologies out there that we could leverage a lot better. We partnered with AssetWatch really early in their development to kind of help pilot and push a lot of those efforts forward. And so as they grew, we grew. And the way our strategy developed, it was just kind of a natural synergy, I'd say, of how we were developing our proactive approach to a lot of the problems we were facing, and then what kind of problem solving we were doing about that, and how we could get further up the failure curve before we started seeing these failures, and what tools could we leverage, and AssetWatch made a lot of sense. So when we talk about the continuous monitoring that we're doing with AssetWatch, we grew that program over time to understand some of our most critical assets. Then we started bringing in some of the route-based stuff, which we had always done, but then we started to consolidate those into a single source of truth. So as we did that and we improved a lot of those programs, it started to organically develop into more readings, more sensors, more route-based stuff than we might have done in the past. We started looking at oil. That had always been more of a route-based, time-based approach. And then being able to take those samples and getting good recommendations off that has helped extend the life of many of those gearboxes and gear sets. Anytime you're bringing in technology and a culture change, there's going to be people that question, the validity of what that technology brings. But I think as time has gone on and some of the saves that we have, it's not a question of how, it's a question of when we're doing these things and what we're looking at. I've never been a proponent of putting sensors on everything, but the things that we do have sensors on and we do have a platform around condition monitoring, we've seen a lot of substantial wins with. So the culture in that and showing those and making it value proposition to our guys, boots on the ground, has always been important to me. But we got to listen to those guys too. If we're not being good stewards of what they're seeing and how we're going to implement this technology, then it's going to be hard for us to get some of that culture change and develop some of those things. So we've tried to do the best I think we can with the leading a lot of those and listening to what our guys have to say at the same time. When we first started our vibration monitoring program, we had a really good asset that we put it on, and we weren't seeing maybe necessarily a lot of things that were really going to move the needle. But then when we brought a lot of that stuff to Delta, just because of the nature of the beast of this facility, we started getting a lot of wins, and we started having people that were bought in, were showing ownership over this program, and we were able to develop a lot of those things and expand the program. As we started with a small amount of sensors, and then we kept adding on. I think we're over 200 and some now. And then when you look at how the condition monitoring with our oil analysis program comes in, it's complementary to how to understand what's going on with that asset exactly. We don't have experts on site for oil analysis. We don't have vibration experts. So leveraging a group like AssetWatch that can help us get down to the details and having a good partnership between our analysts and our reliability technicians, our maintenance managers, myself, that helps us be able to give us the best prescriptive recommendations for that asset. Sometimes we have to understand what might not, we might not be world class at some things yet, but how are we going to drive to get there? So that's where, leveraging some of these partners and understanding exactly what that platform brings helps us out and helps us learn and helps us grow. Yeah, a lot of it has to do with the criticality of the equipment and what we're doing when it comes to vibration. A lot of it's around rotating equipment and what might cause us to go down, for instance, on some of our most important processes. So we took a look at that and we continued to grow some of those assets, grow some of those sensors, and how we were really developing that strategy. And then when we took a look at the oil analysis, well, it was kind of easy because a lot of what we were maintaining on the vibration side, we naturally had reservoirs there that either had hydraulic fluid or they might have gear oil or something like that we wanted to make sure we were being good stewards of. So obviously, the further we can understand what we might need to do, now our capital expenditures are a lot more easy for us to plan and maintain. We're not asking for money in emergency type situations. We're forecasting, 4 years from now, 5 years from now, we're going to have an asset that's probably reached its end of its life cycle. What do we need to do to get better now? So quarterly, we bring in AssetWatch and they will do the survey. Our guys will have to do a lot of the actions around that. But as we're taking these samples, one of the things that I like about the approach that we've worked with on AssetWatch is we're not just taking a look at the oil sample, we're taking a look at the process and what the oil is telling us. So in my previous life as a maintenance manager, I took a lot of time to take oil samples where they were route-based back in the mid-2000s, and I would get a report and I would just see, okay, we got this, this, and this, and I'd look for red, yellow, green, and that's not necessarily the way we should be looking at things when we're talking about the overall health of a piece of equipment or an asset. In the long term, I think what AssetWatch really helps us do is be able to understand what we need to do to make sure that we're going to get the best life cycle out of that particular gearbox, not just what the oil sample's saying. We did an upgrade on the pickle line here with some motors here recently. We were able to detect that we probably did not correctly install a motor right off the bat, or there was some design failures that we probably could improve on. During that time, we had taken a lot of abuse to that motor, so we had decided to pull it out of service because of what the vibration monitoring had said. When we put our spare motor into place, it had a manufacturer's defect. So we were able to detect that rather quickly using vibration monitoring and get that first motor rebuilt to where we didn't lose any downtime. If we had not had those warnings ahead of time, we would have been in a bad spot because we would have not had a like spare, and I don't believe there was any inside the continental United States at that time. So one of the things that I'm a big proponent of is we want our CMMS system to be our system of record. If there's something going on with that process mechanically, electronically, I want to know about it and I want to have good documentation around that. When we start talking about the failure curve and where we're trying to catch these things, having a good record of that with AssetWatch and the alerts that they send into our CMMS system is key. That way we can understand when we might have started to see that failure on that particular asset or when the condition changed. When we're getting alerts into our CMMS system from our condition monitoring experts, what's really nice because what we get to see is their actual words in our CMMS system. Our guys aren't going to an email or to AssetWatch. It's everything that's on their tablets that they're working from day in and day out. AssetWatch made a really good effort to help us integrate that to make sure that our guys didn't have to go to multiple platforms. They could just focus on one thing and work on the task at hand and the job that was created for them rather than worry about administrative duties, and that's been extremely helpful. So from a global aspect of what we're talking about when it comes to our condition monitoring, whether it's vibration or whether it's oil, I take a look at that dashboard probably 3 to 4 times a week to understand what our alerts are, how things are getting resolved, and it's just easy for me to have one single point to where I can look over multiple facilities to see how things are developing or where we might need to have an added attention at that point. What's really nice is that same alert that I see inside of AssetWatch is the same alert I see in our leading to lean system out there on the floor. For me, it's always about boots on the ground. If I'm not enabling those guys to get better with the data that we have, then chances are I'm probably failing them. We need to make sure that our systems, our training, and our strategy are all aligned to make sure that our people are put first. I would say AssetWatch, for being a condition monitoring company and a tech company, a lot of things that they throw around with AI and things like that, it gets back down to the basis of human interaction and having good customer service. I can name several of the guys, Kevin and J-Dev, and a lot of the other group that do a great job of being an interactive partner with our guys, okay? And scheduling the calls to see where we're at monthly or whatever basis that we've determined on with whatever facility. They're always there to help us out. There's been things that they have seen on our analysis that weren't part of the vibration program and said, hey, you have another asset somewhere that's really doing something wrong right now. We might need to take a look at this. So having that kind of partnership, and it's not about who's right, it's about what's right and what we're trying to do, extremely helpful, and I'm really happy we're having a good relationship with them.
So I'm Jeremy Malik. I'm the maintenance manager here at Worthington Steel Delta. I've been with the company for 19 years. A lot of the challenges that we faced was really being able to be proactive and predictive. That was a huge, huge problem for us. We were such a reactive department, and AssetWatch allowed us to really start to dial that in, to be much more proactive in our approach to maintenance. The key for us with buy-in has been the wins. Once the techs start to see the wins, the buy-in comes naturally. It definitely is a heavy lift at first to get everybody to understand what it is we're trying to do. But again, once they see those wins, that's where you start to get that buy-in. So one of the big ones for us has been some of the big wins on the galvanizing line. One that really comes to mind is our RTF combustion blower. Something that's a piece of equipment that's kind of, a few stories up in the air that we don't always have eyes on. And a vibration alert actually caught that. We were able to repair that before failure, which is a huge, huge savings. We would have been down for quite a while in order to fix that.
I'm Eric Waldron. I'm the plant manager here at Worthington Steel in Delta, Ohio. Our reliability of our equipment has really been drastically changed over the last several years. We've been able to reduce our line stops on the galv line, I think primarily due to some of the predictive equipment out there, but it's given the operator that confidence that, hey, this piece of equipment is going to run when I'm ready for it to run. And so by having that confidence level, they're able to continue to do their work, but then also do improvements on the line from an operator standpoint that maybe mirrors a little bit of what we're trying to do in the reliability side of the house as well. For our facility specific, we've done a lot of oil monitoring over the years, but really having this vibration and having that oil analysis all encompassed into one central hub per se has really helped us out, because I don't have to go to this vendor or that vendor or this person, and it all fits within our reliability triangle to make sure that we're trying to get to the foundational activities from a predictive standpoint to make sure that we're delivering to our customers in a time that we say, hey, this is our average lead times, or these are our delivery dates, and we're able to hit those delivery dates, which improves customer satisfaction and really gets us to really rely upon our equipment to be operating when we say it's going to be operating, so we can deliver to our customer in a timely fashion.
My name is Michael Bernhard. I'm a solutions architect at AssetWatch. Yeah, so I met Worthington almost 6 years ago. And when we met Worthington, they already had a strong maintenance culture. They were at a world-class level of, sub 3% annual downtime unplanned. But the thing is with them, they were always trying to get better. So making those improvements and incremental measurements was important to them. And over the years, what we've been able to validate is that, having more data that's quality and prescriptive in nature has really helped them to even further improve their already well-established maintenance program. When we initially started at the original plant, there was a lot of people that had been there for 20, 30 years. Anytime there's change, there's resistance. Understanding that we could catch things before they could, even though they've been there for 20 years, was a little slow at first for them to understand that we were deriving value to help their lives improve. After we had a a few wins that really established and built their confidence in us. It helped validate it, throughout the Worthington enterprise as a whole. And as that belief grew in us, it helped, adoption at other plants that has led to a huge success in our partnership together. It was the combination of us delivering on what we promised and then the buy-in from the plant level to gain belief that, we're going to give them what we say we would. And that is early detection, which gives them more peace of mind when you think about the day-to-day operations of maintenance folks. So as a company, our goal is never to be just a sensor company. Our goal is to be a single platform for all PDM. And a lot of times when we were doing vibration analysis on large motors and gearboxes, our analysts would tell them to pull an oil sample because that's the least intrusive way to figure out if there is wear happening in the gearbox, which would match up with the vibration data. And so after a couple years of this, just made the natural next steps for us to identify this as a gap in maintenance and reliability. So we brought in some lubrication experts. We built out a program. And with Worthington being our initial pilot of vibration, when we started, it just made sense for them to test out our next program, which is going to be oil analysis. They did some tests. They were able to validate that we were going to deliver on the promise that we had done originally. And then from there, we've grown our oil analysis program to not only complement the vibration that we're doing, but help people really truly deliver the next level of reliability when it comes to maintaining assets that are larger lubricated assets. As you guys know, lubrication is one of the most cost-effective ways to drive reliability in assets. A lot of people, they're used to having several vendors doing several different things, so they're getting reports from everywhere. What we really try to do is consolidate it into one platform. If you think about online vibration monitoring, if you have a system that's similar to that, you have alerts coming from one area. If you have oil analysis, you have it coming from maybe your oil vendor or another third party. If you're doing route-based, maybe that's coming from another party. Our end result is bringing every piece of that information into one platform. Not only is it easy for you to access, but now if you think about the data in the back end, that can start to collaborate together and start building stronger AI algorithms that are going to wrap around and help detect issues even earlier in the PDF curve. A decade ago, these things were very expensive, they're hard to set up, and it took a lot of manpower. What we've tried to do is really take that on our responsibility and bring it into, as a service. So these things are not nearly as expensive as they used to be. It's not as time intrusive, and it doesn't take up a lot of manpower. You can easily deploy a system these days. In 1 or 2 days, you can be up and running at your facility and have a full-blown PDM program that you've been missing out on before. So what we've seen is really having the data that's driven behind the recommendations and the data that's coming in. It helps supercharge your team because now they're not focusing on minuscule tasks like daily inspections of a motor or a gearbox that they need to put eyes and ears on, because at the end of the day, sensors don't miss work. They show up, they're there 24/7. The oil analysis data that comes through, that's reliable. So now they can focus on things that need their attention on top of their daily tasks that they have to do anyways. We do have an aging workforce. There's a lot of folks that are going to be retiring in the next 5 years, and the data will point to show that 50% of our labor force is going to retire. And we're not bringing in as much talent as we needed to. So in order to attract talent, you need to bring in technology, because everyone knows how to use their phone. Everyone knows how to use their computer. So bringing in technology can help you bring in new talent that's interested in the way that you're doing business, as well as keeping and retaining them because they're continually learning through the amount of data that's coming in, the information that's coming in, which helps them excel at their job at an early stage. So I think one area that we really focus on is over the course of monitoring a facility like Delta here. We've been monitoring it for several years. We're able to identify the common faults that they're seeing across the facility that they can then take into their maintenance training programs and say, why are 30% of our issues bearing related when we have a lubrication technician that's supposed to be lubricating these on a schedule, right? So now they can take that information of the faults that are, happening versus the actions that they're taking. They can refine those processes and they can start to eliminate these faults before they even happen, just through continual education and improvements that they've done with Hendrix when it comes to precision and reliability. The ability to do proper laser alignments of installations. So looking at precision installation, precision maintenance practices. Our goal at the end of the day is not to call out a fault every time. We want to help you eliminate the fault and prevent it from happening in the future. The end result of a precision maintenance reliability program is to not only identify faults early, but to stop the faults before they even start. That's where you start to see extension of asset life of 30, 40, 50%, right? If you look at lubrication, there's data that supports if you have a great lubrication program, your gearboxes can double their life extension. So if you think about that from a capital perspective, your asset that cost you $250,000 and it was supposed to last 20 years, it lasts 40 years, your profit margin increases, your throughput increases, the stress on your staff decreases, which means not only does safety go up, reliability goes up, but just your overall workplace happiness goes up. My biggest thing when I talk to customers, and I talk to dozens a week, is their fear of change. And the biggest thing that I tell people is just jump in. At the end of the day, it's very low risk to start. You can start small and scale as you grow. If you think about Delta, we started at 50 sensors 5 years ago. They now have hundreds of sensors plus hundreds of collection points on a route-based system plus dozens of oil analysis samples. They didn't start at this level. They started at a small point. So pick your most critical assets, identify where it can hurt you if you go down, deploy on a small level, build confidence with your team, and then at that point you can start to scale as you prove to your business that this is a valid choice for you.
All right, so welcome back to the studio. I think that was pretty impressive what Worthington Steel was able to do. Now, I think it's important to point out, their maintenance program was already pretty good, and this has really just elevated them from good to great. And condition monitoring, it should do just that. It should help elevate your practices, not only with your maintenance practices, but also with your reliability objectives at your plant. And combining two very powerful tools here, vibration analysis and oil analysis, really help you identify failures and potential issues a lot quicker. A lot of people, are afraid of change. They want to maintain the status quo. And I think it's important to point out to really make this successful, you do have to have that internal champion to really push and drive this program forward. Luckily, with Worthington Steel, there was a good buy-in, collectively among the group that really ramps up how quickly some of these initiatives can go into place. But if someone's asking, what's in it for me? Think about this, right? Fewer failures, some of the stuff that we've already heard from out there in Ohio, less downtime. In terms of a maintenance technician, since that was my previous life, I think about, all right, maybe I'm not going to have to get called back into the plant, at midnight on Christmas Eve. Maybe I can actually make plans with my family and not worry about that little voice in the back of your head saying, you're going to get called back in, there's going to be a problem at the plant. It gives you more reliable operations. It gives you better work-life balance for your staff. There's a big benefit, not only, financially for the company, but also kind of peace of mind for the individuals. Whenever it comes to really improving condition monitoring programs, it does require diligence. It does require knowledgeable staff. You got to get people versed in new technologies, and I think that's why AssetWatch does a good job here, because they do have that assigned condition monitoring engineer to really kind of link up with you and be analyzing the data, give you early warnings that something may be going on, give you some insight, maybe even help you troubleshoot and figure out what needs to be done to correct the issue. Because vibration analysis by itself, very powerful tool. It can detect things like looseness and misalignment very quick, right? Oil analysis by itself, very powerful tool. When you link those two together, though, you start to see, more of the actual environment that the machine is operating in, and holistically, you can start to be a little bit more proactive. Oil analysis is obviously going to tell you the health of the lubricant, make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to do. Make sure that we can monitor contaminant levels, hopefully avoid some sort of root causes. Vibration analysis, obviously telling you, how the machine is installed, if anything mechanically starts to go bad inside. So being able to see both of these together and trend them together kind of pushes us further up that PF curve to where we're detecting things a lot sooner, and it gives us, kind of a longer runway here to correct the action and not have to have these, catastrophic or reactive failure modes that we're typically used to. So I think it's a very good practice. I'm really excited about that. Of course, I've worked with a lot of lubrication programs out there, and trying to get these things involved, of course, you got to have the right machines, you got to have the right staff, you got to have the right knowledge. All of this goes into that, and I think you'll find that AssetWatch's solutions pretty comprehensive with that. Now, for lubrication programs, obviously, feel free to reach out to Noria. We're here to help you, but I think you should check out AssetWatch's stuff. We'll actually put a link in the chat so you can go to that and see some of their solutions that they have. But as always, I'm Wes. This has been another Noria webinar. Thank you so much for the questions that have come in, and continue to put your questions in there. If we don't have time to go through them right now, rest assured someone will be responding to you. But this has been another Noria webinar. I'm Wes, and we will catch you on the next one.